Hi there, in this video we are doing a last minute GCSE Maths revision of the calculator paper. So here we have got a few of the instructions. So calculators are allowed for this paper. You must show all your working out, and altogether there are 26 questions, and the paper is out of 80 marks. Okay, so if you think that you have found this video useful, then don't forget to subscribe the channel and keep updated yourself with more videos then. Okay, I'm going to start with the first one. This says that Mary travels to work by train every day. The probability that her train will be late on any day is 0.15. So the probability of the train to be late is 0.15. The first thing we need to know that is a probability. So the sum of the branches would be add up to 1. So them two together should be adding up to 1. Clearly, we can see that now. If this is 0.8, so if this is 0.15, the other one would be 1 minus 0.15 would be 0.85 then. That's the probability of being late. So that's the probability of being not late. Now, this is that complete the table. Now, this is that to complete the table means the late would be 0.15, then not late would be 0.85, then it's 0.15, and then it would be 0.85. Now, here they're asking that work out the probability that her train will be late on at least one of the 2 days. So, at least means one or more than one. So, we are finding out the probability of at least late on one of these days. So the keyword over here is at least. So it means that we are looking for when it's late at least 1 day or 2 days. So if you look to the first one now, let's have a go how we're going to read this probability tree. So this represents for late and late. So I'm going to write it down over here. This would be for late and late. The other one we are having is for late and not late. So I'm going to write it down. That's the late and not late. So I'm taking L dash for it. To read the other one we are having, so it's going to be not late and a late. So it would be not late is a L dash and late is this. The last one is a not late and not late. Because this is that we are finding out the probability will be late at least 1 day. So we are taking this one because at least means one or more than one late. We are taking this as well. We are taking this as well. The only which we are not taking is not late, not late. So to find out the probability, we're going to write down the probability of late and late plus the probability of late with not late and the probability of not late with late. So these are the three options that we are considering. To write down the probability for each of them, so the late and late would be 0.15 times by 0.15. Then the probability of the late with not late would be 0.15 times by 0.85. The other one would be not late. So not late is here and late would be there. So the other one would be 0.85 times by 0.15. Because the calculator is allowed, you do all the calculations up exactly how it's written, and you would have the probability. The final answer would be having 0.2775. So you get 0.2775. Okay, I would suggest here, however, I have written, just write down exactly in the calculator using the brackets and everything exactly the same. Here we have got the next question now. So it says f of x equals to 4 sine x. Find f of 23. Give your answer to 3 significant figures. So here we know that what we are finding out is f of 23. Comparing them together, what we have the original function is, we have got f of x equals to 4 sine x. And comparing them together, we know that x is 23. So we are finding out what f of 23 is. It means that the x would replace by 23. You exactly type this in the calculator, which is 4 times sine 23. And you get the answer, which is going to be 1.562925. Here, it is important for you to just make sure that the final answer should be to 3 significant figures. So 1, 2, and 3. You look to the last digit, the third decimal place. Because it is less than 5, so you keep it the same. And you get the 3 significant figures would be 1.56 then. It is important for you here to read the question carefully, because if you don't write down to 3 significant figures, then you would not get the mark. We have got the next one now, g of x equals to 2x minus 3. This says that find out fg of 34. This is a composite function. So whenever we have to do with the composite functions, we always start from the inside function. So first we're going to find out what g of 34 is. So the first thing we'll be doing is to find out g of 34. So we're going to take the g function, which is g of x equals to 2x minus 3. You replace x with the 34, so it would be 2 times by 34 minus 3. So when you do 2 times by 34 minus 3, that would give you 65. Once you know what g of 34 is, then you write down here f, and g34 is a 65. Now you take, in the f function, your x is 65. So I'm going to write down this x represents is for 65 here. F function is here, so let's use this f function. So 4 times by sine, and x is 65. Again, here it is important for you to make sure that you're writing down your final answer to the correct significant figures. When you type in 4 sine 65 in the calculator, it would be 3.62523111. And the three significant figures would be 1, 2, and 3. We look to the next decimal place, which is this. And because this is 5, we add 1 in the previous number. So the final answer would be 3.63. Here we have got the part C now. In the part C, this is that h of x equals to x plus 4 whole square. Looking to the function, we know that this is a quadratic function. Okay, now Ivan needs to solve the following equation, h of x equals to 25. He writes x plus 4 whole square equals to 25. Then did x plus 4 equals to 5. X equals to 1 is the working out. This is not fully correct. Explain why. So here at this stage, it's for 1 mark. And what we need to see that where event went wrong. So this step, when we do that, let's say x plus 4 whole square equals to 25. When you get rid of the square, you'll come out with a positive and negative 5. You can't just have the positive, and you have to have two solutions, which is one with the positive, one with the negative. So here, this was the mistake, and this says that both the positive and negative square roots are required for a fully correct solution. So it needs to be, to have the fully correct solution, you need to have both the positive and the negative square roots required. This is for 1 mark, so you have to write down the correct explanation to have that 1 mark. Here we have got the next question now, which is for 3 marks. It's always a good idea to always look to the marks that the question that we are attempting is how many marks is that for. So now this says that in a restaurant, 9 starter dishes are there, 15 main dishes, and 8 dessert dishes are there. Janet is going to choose one of each of the following combinations for her meal: a starter and a main dish, or a main dish with the dessert, or the starter, main dish, and a dessert. Show that there are 1, 3, 3, 5 different ways of choosing the meal. I'm going to start with the first one now. So the first option is the starter with the main. So how many starters are there? So I'm going to write down here is a 1. And considering the first option, which is, I'm going to write down it's a option 1. So starter, how many starters are there? 9. And it goes with the main dish. And how many main dishes are there is 15. So multiplication of that would be 135. Now, I'm going to consider the option 2 because we are considering all the options one by one and then later adding them together. The next is the main dish. The main dishes are 15 times, and then the dessert is 8. So you do 15 times 8, which would be 120. Then we're going to consider the option 3, and with the option 3, it's all 3 of them together. So it would be 9 times 15 times 8, and the multiplication is 1080. Because this says that there are 1, 3, 3, 5 ways of choosing all the meals. So whatever you're having the combinations, the possible ones, you add all of them together. So that would be 135 plus 120 plus 1080. And when you add them together, it would be 1335. So this is what we have to show that. Here we have got the next question now, and again I'm going to first look to how many marks is that for. Altogether is for 3 marks, where the part A is for 2 marks and the part B is for 1 mark. So to begin with the question number 4, it says that in May 2019, the distance between the Earth and the Mars is 3.9 times 10 power 7 kilometer. In May 2019, a signal was sent from Earth to Mars, and assuming that the signal sent from Earth to Mars traveled with the speed of this. So we know what the distance is, we know what the speed is, and this is that how long did the signal take to get to Mars. So it's a speed distance time. First, I'm going to draw my triangle of the speed distance time. This is a speed, this is a distance, this is a time. Then I'm going to see that what we are finding out. So we are finding out the time. So I'm going to put the question mark with the time where the speed and the distance is given to us. To write down the formula for the time, this line is a divide. So we do the distance over the speed. So the distance we have been given is 3.9 times 10 power 7. And the speed is 3 times 10 power 5. You type this in the calculator and you'll come out with 130. So here, this is the seconds it will take to travel. So it's 130 seconds. Now, the next one is the speed of the signal sent from Earth to Mars in 2019 was actually less than 3 times 10 power 5 kilometer per second. Now, this says that it's not actually the speed, but the actual speed was actually less than 3 times 10 power 5. How will this affect your answer to the part A? Now, clearly we see that where does the speed is. So speed is here, that's in the denominator. So speed is here. If I just like reduce the value of the speed, it means that the time would be longer, and it makes sense. If you go somewhere with the less speed, it will take you more time to reach there. So how is this going to affect your answer? So this says that the signal will take longer to reach Mars, and it's for 1 mark. So it's just a simple clear 1 mark answer where you write down the reason for it. Now we have got question number 5, and it's for 3 marks here. So with question number 5, it says that the point A with the coordinates 5 and 9, the point B with the coordinates D and 15, the gradient of the line AB is 3. Find out the value of D. So the first thing is the gradient that we are looking for. We write down the formula of the gradient, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Maybe some of you are familiar with the gradient formula, which is change in y over change in x, which means the same thing how I've written it down. So now you write down the coordinates of A and B, where A is 5 and 9, and the coordinates of B is D and 15. I always prefer to label them with the x1, y1, x2, y2. You can write down any point coordinates as x1, y1, and the other point coordinate as x2, y2. Now I'm going to use these points in the gradient. Because we know that the gradient of AB is 3, so I'm going to replace gradient with the 3. y2 minus y1 means 15 take away 9, and then x2 minus x1 is a d take away 5. You're going to simplify the now, which is d equals 15 take away 9 would be 6. And d take away 5 would remain the same. Because you're finding out the d and d is in the denominator, you're going to do the multiplication on the other side. So you'll be getting the next step, 3 times by d take away 5 equals to 6. You open up the bracket, which is 3d minus 15 equals to 6. Now you're going to solve for d, so plus 15 on both the sides, and you'll get 3d equals to, that would be 16 plus 15 would be 21. And now to find out, we do divide by 3 on both the sides, and d would be 7. So we get the d value, which is going to be 7, and I'm going to write it down over here. This would be the d value here. Here we have got question number 6, and it's for 2 marks here. Now we see that they're the graph A, B, C, and D. And we have got some functions given as well. We need to match it, that which function goes with which graph. So I'm going to begin with the first one now. I'm going to label them. So if I just read the graph A, how does the graph A looks like? So it is the graph of some square root function. Now this is a linear graph. So it's just like I'm going to write it down as a linear graph. This is your reciprocal graph. And this is your quadratic graph. Okay, we know that the quadratic graph looks like this, but it's just a part of the quadratic graph basically. So I'm going to start with the first one now. So we're going to have a look to y is directly proportional to x. It's a linear function, so it would be a graph B. Okay, now y is proportional to x squared. This is going to be the quadratic. It's the part of the quadratic graph, so we're going to say that this is a graph D. Now y is proportional to the square root of x, which is making our graph A, and the other one is the reciprocal function, so that would be the graph C. So this you get easily like 2 marks, recognizing the right graphs and then writing them down. Here I'm going to mention that because it's for 2 marks, so if you get the 2 letters correct, then you would have 1 mark. Another 2 graphs right would give you another mark. Okay, so now we have got the question and it's for 2 marks. The question is on the topic, which I can see is a quadratic sequence. And what this is, that is the n term of a sequence is given this. The second term of the sequence is -2. The fourth term of the sequence is a 12. Here the first 5 terms of the sequence is given already. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of the sequence. So we are finding out the n term. So I'm going to start how we find out the n term of the quadratic sequence. So the given terms we are having is 0, 2, 6, 12 and 20. The next thing we do is we find out the first difference of this sequence. So finding the first difference is going to be +2, +4, +6 and +8. Because the first difference is not the same, so we're going to find out the difference one more time, which is called the second difference. And we see that the second difference is every time it's adding up by 2. So having that, the first thing we're going to do is whatever your second difference, you make the half of it. So I'm going to write it down, half the second difference always. Because we are getting the second difference is equals to 2 and making a half would give us 1. So the first term we'll be having would be just n square. Because we are getting 2 divided by 2, the half of the second difference is a 1. So the coefficient of this is a 1. So either you write down 1n square or just n square would be the same thing. Now, what we know that is, we are having the term which is 2, 2, 2 and 2. The thing is, I'm going to make a table now. So with the table, the terms we are having is 0, 2, 6, 12 and 20. Then this is the first term, this is the second, third, fourth and fifth term. We do the square. So if I say that these are the terms, I'm going to use it for n here. I'm going to do n square. So n square means 1 square, which is 1, 4, 9, 16 and 25. Then we do the difference between them. So I'm going to write it down here. We are doing the difference. So 0 minus 1 is a -1. Then we do the difference is a -2, -3, -4. And this difference is a -5. What kind of the sequence you're getting is a natural number sequence, but the negative one. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. And to write them down together, we know the first term we are having is n square already. The other one from here, we know that the next term is going to be -n. So here, if you compare them together, you know that the a value is a 1 and b value is a -1. Here we have got the next question. Now it's for 1 mark only, so we need to be careful about it, that we are not expected to show a lot of working out for it. Patrick has to work out the exact value of 64 power a quarter. 1/4 of 64 is 16. So 64 to the power of quarter, 64 power quarter is going to be 16. Explain why is this wrong. So Patrick doesn't need to do 1/4, but because 1/4 is in the power, you just have to explain. So you write down the reason for it. So I can write it down. Patrick needs to find the fourth root of 64 rather than a quarter of 64. So he doesn't need to find out the quarter of 64, but it needs to be the fourth root of the 64 that he's supposed to find out. And that's for 1 mark. The reason giving for that is enough. Here we have got the next question now, which this is that the equation of the circle is x square plus y square equals to 42.25. Find the radius of the circle. I'm going to start by writing down the original equation of the circle, which is x square plus y square equals to r square. If I compare them together, we see that r square given here is 42.25. Because this says that find out the radius, which is just the r value, so you do the square root of 42.25 and it would give you the answer, which is 6.5. So we get the radius would be 6.5. It's just for 1 mark. Here we have got the next question now. So with the next question, it's question number 10. This says that Nobi invests 6,000 for 5 years. So this is the first piece of the information we have been given, that invested 6,000 for 5 years. The investment gets a compound interest of X% per annum. At the end of the 5 year, the total amount he'll be having is 8029.35, and you're finding out what the interest rate is. So here we have got the formula of the compound interest, which is original amount times the multiplier to the power of n, where n represents the number of the years. So to begin with the first part of the information, the original amount that's invested is of 6,000. So I'm going to write down 6,000 here, times the multiplier is, because it's increasing, so we write down 1 plus x to the power of n. We don't know how much is the x, which we'll be finding out. And this is that at the end of the 5 years, the investment is worth 8029.35. It means the number of the years is given to us as well, which is a 5. And the compound interest, or the compound amount at the end, would be 8029.35. We're going to rearrange and find out the x value from here. So this is times by 6,000. When it goes to the other side, it would be divide by 6,000. So simply we're going to write down 8029.35 divided by 6,000 equals to 1 plus x to the power of 5. You divide them together and then you do the cube root of 5. So that would be 5 here. Then you're going to do you take the 5 on the other side, would be the root 5. So you're going to write down 5 and then the root, and whatever you get the answer from here would be 1.3382 25, and that would be equals to 1 plus x. Now to rearrange that, you do that, and then whatever the answer you get minus 1 from it. So it would be 1.0599 equals to 1 plus x. To find out the x value, you do minus 1 on both the sides. So you would have x equals to 0.0599. Because we are finding out x%, so x% would be, if I just change that into the percentage, so we're moving the decimal to be like 2 places forward, and that would be roughly 6%. So here we are getting the answer, which is 6% then. Now, this is the question we are having for 2 marks, and this says that x plus 6x minus 7, write in the form of this. So that's the completing the square factorization. Alright, with the completing the square, you open the bracket, you write down x plus the half of the middle term, so the half of 6 is a 3 square minus. You do the square of your second term, which is 3 square minus 7. So you would have x plus 3 whole square minus 9 and minus 7. You simplify it, it would be x plus 3 whole square and then minus 16. Because this is that a and b are the 2 integers numbers, and clearly you can see that if we compare them together, so a is 3 and b is minus 16. Alright, so here we have got the question on the probability topic. So this is that here only the red counters and the blue counters in the bag. Joe takes random a counter from the bag. The probability that the counter is a red is 0.65. So I'm going to write down the probability of the red counter is 0.65. Okay. Joe puts the counter back into the bag. Mary takes the random counter from the bag. She puts the counter back into the bag. What is the probability that Joe and Mary take the counter of the different colors? Okay, so what are the 2 options we are having? I'll try to draw the tree over here. So this is what the tree diagram is. So if I say that the probability of having a red counter is 0.65, then the probability of not having the red counter is 0.35. So again, because they are putting the counters back in the bag, so it's going to be red and not red, and the probability stays the same. So that would be 0.65, 0.35, 0.65, and 0.35. Now here this is that work out the probability that the both takes the different counters. So you're finding out the probability for red, and the other one would not be a red, or it would not be a red but a red again then. So if I do for red and not red, so this is for red and not red is this one, then the other one is not red with a red. Because this says that the both should be of the different colors, we take in account both the cases. So the first case would be 0.65 times by 0.35. The other one would be 0.35 times by 0.65. You multiply them together and add afterwards. So when you do 0.65 times by 0.35, it would be 0.2275. The other one would be 0.2275 as well. And when you add them together, it would be 0.455. And this is for 2 marks. Okay, so we have got question number 30 now, and it's for 3 marks here. So this is for 3 marks here. This says that the diagram shows the circle with an equilateral triangle. So there's a circle. Equilateral triangle means all the 3 sides are the same, and the angles are 60, 60, 60 each. One side of the equilateral triangle is the diameter of the circle. So we can see that this representing the diameter of the circle. The circle has a circumference of 44 centimeter. I'm going to write it down. So circle has a circumference of 44 centimeter, and the formula to find out the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. Okay, work out the area of the triangle. Now to find out the area of the triangle, so this we have got a triangle over here. So to find out the area of the triangle, we are having a formula. Because it's not a right angle triangle, it would be half AB sine C. So it means that the 2 sides and the angle between them. So because it's an equilateral triangle, we know this is 60, this is 60, and this is 60 as well. So we know the angles of them. What else we can find out is how much is the length of this side, which is the diameter. So now we know that the circumference is given to us. We're going to use this now, which is pi times d. Circumference is 44. Pi is, we know the pi value, which is 3.142, and times by d. To find out d, we do 44 over pi. You can use the pi button in the calculator, and when you divide them together, you get the diameter, which is 14.006. Okay, this is what we are having, the diameter. So the diameter is basically the length of this triangle, and because we know that is the equilateral triangle, which means that this length and this length and this length are the same. So now we are finding out the area. So to find out the area of the triangle, simply we're going to write down half. A is the diameter, which is times by 14.006. Then B is the another length, which is the same as well because it's the equilateral triangle. So I'm going to just write it down. Times by sine, and the angle, because it's an equilateral triangle, so each of the angle is of 60. You type the whole thing in the calculator and you come out with the answer, which is 84.9. Make sure the answer you write down using your calculator should be to 3 significant figures. So here we have got the next question now, and you see that this diagram is made of the 2 triangles, and the question is for 5 marks, which is here, and this question is for 5 marks. Work out the length of AD. First of all, I'm going to see that what is the length of AD. I'm going to highlight it so we would remember what we are looking for. Now, I'm going to start with the bottom triangle because I clearly can see that there's more information given with the bottom triangle. So using the bottom triangle now, we know that how much is this angle, we know how much is this angle, and we know this length as well. But using the sine rule, because we can find out this length as well. And this is the common of both the top triangle and the bottom triangle. So first thing we are finding out is the length of BD. So to find out BD, you're using the sine rule. So I'm going to draw the triangle over here on the side. This is the triangle we'll be having. So this is B, this is C, and this is D. This is 109, the angle. This is 34, this is the angle, and that's 12.5. To do the sine rule, we know that we need to have the opposite angles and the opposite sine. And then we're going to do is BD over sine 34 equals to 12.5, which is this length, and opposite to that would be sine of 109. To find out the length of BD, we simply write it down 12.5 over sine 109, and when you take this to the other side would be times by sine 34. You type the whole thing exactly how I have written, and you're going to come out with the length of BD, which would be 7.39 centimeter. So this is 7.39 centimeter. I'm going to draw the top triangle now, because using the top triangle we have to find out the length of AD. So this is A, this we are having as a D, and this is B. This angle is given to us, which is 86 degree. This length is 11.4 centimeter, and this we just B to D, we just found it out, which is 7.39. Now, because we are finding out this, it means that 3 sides and 1 angle is your cosine rule. Now, we're going to use the cosine rule now. So, the cosine rule is to find out AD square. The other lengths, you square and add them together. So, 11.4 square plus 7.39 square. Then you do minus 2, 11.4 times 7.39 times cos, and whatever the length you're finding out, like AD, the angle would be the opposite that, which is 86 here. You do them, AD square equals to, do the square of the first length, do the square of the second length. So this 11.4 whole square would be 129.96, plus when you do 7.39 square, it would give 54.6, minus when you type this whole thing in the calculator, which is 2 times 11.4 times 7.39 times cos 86, you will come out with 11.75. So you sub the whole thing in the calculator again, add them together, minus, you would have 172.85. Here, what the students commonly do that is they leave this as the answer, because you're finding out the length of AD and this is AD square. So you do the square root to get rid of the square from the other side, which is 172.85. And to get the length of AD would be 13.1 centimeter. Okay, now here we have got question number 15, and it's for 3 marks here. And what they're asking in the question is, a car moves from rest. It means it starts from 0, which is here. The graph gives the information about speed, v meter per second, of the car t seconds after it starts to move. Now, what this is that work out an estimate. Now, the keyword over here is the estimate. The distance that the car travels in the first 20 seconds of the journey using 4 strips of equal width. So first 20 second means you start from here and you go until there. So this is what you're looking for. So it means I'm going to draw the line over here first of all. Because this is that 4 strips, so you need to equally divide them. So the first strip would be at here at 5. The next strip would be at 10. The other one would be at 15. And the last one would be at 20. So finding the distance is same as finding the distance is finding the area between the curve. So finding the distance is the same as finding the area under the curve. Now you see that because it's the estimated, so here we see that this is making a rough triangle. So this is making a kind of a triangle. I'm going to label this as a 1 first of all. So finding for 1 would be the triangle, which is base times height divided by 2. Clearly we can see that the base is a 5. The height is 4, and you make a half of it. So 5 times 4 is 20, half of 20 is 10. So I'm going to write that this is 10. So the first part is giving us 10. Now I'm going to do the next one, which is the second one. The second one is making a trapezium. So if you draw a straight line over here, it's making a trapezium. I'm going to draw on the side the second one. So this is what we'll be getting. Okay, now we are finding out the area of this trapezium. This is 5, this is 10, this we know is the minimum length is 4. The highest we can read it as 12. So this is 12 here. To find out the area for trapezium, we have a formula a plus b, then times by h, and then divide by 2. A plus b are the 2 parallel lengths. So here the 2 parallel length is this and this one. So how much is going to be the two parallel lengths would be, this is 4 here. So we're going to do 4 plus 12 times by h, which is the difference between them. So times by 5 and then divide by 2. So when you do 4 plus 12, it would be 16. 16 times 5 and then make a half of it. So first we're going to see that what 16 times 5 is, which is 80, and make a half of 80 would be 40. So the area of the second one we found out is 40. We're going to draw the third one now, and I'm using again the green color for the third one. So the third one is again making a trapezium, which you clearly can see is this. I'm going to draw the trapezium here, which is this thing. So how much is this? Is a 10. This is 15. The height over here is 12. The height on the other side is going to be 18. So this is what we're having the whole thing. So it would be a plus b. A plus b are the two parallel lengths, which is 12 and 18. You add them together. So 12 plus 18. Then times by this difference, which is the height, and 5, and then divide by 2. So 12 plus 18 is a 30. And you do 30 times 5 would be 150, and make a half of it would be 75. So we get the third one equals to 75. Now we do for the last one, which is number 4. I'm going to write down 4 here. Again, it's making a trapezium. So this is what it's making a trapezium here. Now having this trapezium, we do a plus b. So I'm going to write down 4 here. So a plus b means this we know is 18. Plus the other one, we know that is like just this straight line at 20. So times by h means is a 5, because this is the difference. And then you do divide by 2. So when you do the whole calculation, you get 95. To find out the total distance, you add all the 4 strips areas together. So I'm going to write down the total distance would be, the first one was 10. The next one was 40, which is here. Then the third one we get is 75. And the last one is a 95. So when we add them together, we get a total distance of 220 meter. Here we have got the next question, and that's a probability question. This says that there are the 12 counters in the bag. There is an equal number of the red counters, blue counters, and yellow counters in the bag. Because we know that there's the equal number of them, so I'm going to write it down. So the 3 colors we are having is a red, blue, and yellow, and all 3 of them is each of them is a 4, 4, and 4. Okay, because when you add all of them together, which is 4 plus 4 plus 4, that would give you a sum of 12, which is the total. There are no other counters in the bag. 3 counters are taken at random from the bag. Work out the probability of taking the 3 counters. So we are finding the probability of getting 3 red counters. So I'm going to write down probability of 3 red counters. This is what we are finding out. What is the probability of getting the first red counter is 4 over 12. The next one would be 3 over 11. And the other one would be 2 over 10. You do the multiplication, simplification, and you get 1 over 55 is the final answer, and it's for 2 marks only. Here we have got the next question, and the topic is a histogram. We know that this is a histogram. How do we know this is a histogram? Because there's no gaps in between them. And the x-axis is age, where the y-axis of the histogram is always the frequency density. Okay. So the diagram shows some information about the age of 134 members of the sport. So the total is 134. 20% of the members of the sports club who are over 50 years of the age are female. We know that what is the total members of the sports club is. First of all, we're going to find out how much is the total, which is given to us is 134. So total is 134. Where this says that 20% of the members of the sports club who are above 50 years are the female. First, we need to find out how many of them are above 50 years. So here we're going to see that this line represents for 50 years here. Okay, so to represent each number of the people, you look to the histogram and find the area. So for the first one, which is So for the first one, which is this part, to find out the number of the people which represents the first bar, you find out the area of it. So to find the first one, we know that if this is 0 to 20, then this must be 10. So base times height, which is 10 times by 1.1, and that would be 11. So first bar represents 11 people. Now we're having the next one. So this bar represents how many people. We're going to find it out by finding the area of it. So to do for the next one now, we are having the second one. So this is going to be 10 because this difference is a 10, and base times height. So the height is going to be of 2.8. So times by 2.8, and that represents 28. To find out how many people represents the third bar would be this thing, and to find it out, we will going to do as this difference is a 20. So we're going to do 20 times, which is the base, and the height would be 2.3. So that would be 46. To represent for the next one now, the next bar is this thing. So if I'm going to do the total of it, which is this bar, first we're going to find that out. And the total of this bar is, the 20 is the difference. So we're going to write down 20, which is this difference. And the height is going to be 1.4. So when we do 20 times 1.4, we get the total number of the people that represents, that would be 28. Alright, so to do the next one now, we find out how much is the difference, and the bar we are having is the last one, and which is this part. So the difference we are having is of this part, which is if this is 60, 70, 80, 90. So this would be 90. So the difference of 30, and reading the height, it would give us 0.7, and that's 21. So it means that the total would be, if you add them together, so the total is going to be 11 plus 28 plus 46 plus 28 and 21. And that would be 134, which actually is given to us in the question as well. Now, going back to the question, is like what this is, that 20% of the members of the sports club who are over 50 years of the age are female. So how many of them are more than 50? So people more than 50 years. So to find out the people more than 50 years, so I'm going to write it down. So the last box, which represents, definitely would be more than 50 years because it says from 60 to 90, would be 21. The one which is between this part, it's 28, but because this represents 28, so more than 50 would be 14, because this part here represents for 50. So the people who are having the age more than 50 years is 14 plus 21. And that would be 35. So once we know that these are 35, now we're going to find out 20% of them are the female. So 20% of 35 are female. So finding the 20% of 35 would be, you do 0.20 times by 35. So you do 0.20 times by 35, and that would be 7. So 7 are the females who are above 50 years old. So we say that 7 females who are above 50 years old. So now we have got the next question, and with the next question is for how many marks? So this is for 4 marks here. Here's a pyramid with a square based ABCD. So clearly we can see that the bottom part of the pyramid is making a square, and the AB is 5 meters. So A to B. So it means that each length of the square is of 5 meters. So this is 5 meters. So this would be 5. This would be 5, and this would be 5 because it's making a square. The vertex T is 12 meter vertically. So this is the vertex, which is like 12 meter long. So I assume that the vertex is this part, and that's from the middle to the top, and this is 12 meter long, which is this part. If I draw a separate right angle triangle, so this is how the triangle would look like. So this is the point which is hitting the surface. This is a point T, this is a point A, and what do we know about it is this is there. So this is the part we are having over here. So to find out how much we are getting, this part is, we know this is 5, this is 5, and I'm going to draw the right angle triangle to find out how much is this length first of all. To find out this length, we know that this is 5, this is 5. So now we can use the Pythagoras Theorem, which is, we say that the two sides of a right angle triangle, anything can be A, B, and the next one is a C. So C square equals to A square plus B square. So C square equals to 5 square, which is 25, and 25 would be 50. Getting the root of it, C would be 5 root 2. So we get the length of this C, which is 5 root 2. And we know that if I draw the right angle triangle, which I just drew on the side here. So this is the right angle triangle we have drawn, is this right angle triangle. Now what we have to find out is, this is that find out the size of the angle TAC. Finding the size of the angle T, A and C. So C is here, this angle we are finding out. So this is TAC and this is the angle we are finding out. So this is the angle basically we are finding out. This is the point which is hitting the surface, the square base surface. Now we know that this is 12 meter. We found out this length, which is 5 root 2. And now we can use the trigonometry. So remember that with the trigonometry, the first thing we do is whatever the angle is opposite to the angle, we write down opposite. The other side of the right angle triangle is the adjacent. And the longest side, which is opposite to the right angle triangle, is called a hypotenuse. Now, you're going to see that we have got 3 triangles, so which is so. The other one is a car. And the last one is a tour. So now we know that we have got 3 triangles, which is so. The other one is a... Now we know that we have got 3 triangles, which is so. The next one is a car and the last one is a tour. Okay, so because we are having now these 3 triangles, we see that which one can go with our trigonometry. So to see that, we have opposite and adjacent is there. So this one has got opposite adjacent. So we can write it down tan x equals to opposite, which is 12, and the adjacent is 5 root 2. You're going to divide them together, and once you divide them together, to find out the angle x, you take this tan on the other side. Remember, whenever we are finding out the angles, so we take tan on the other side. Taking the tan on the other side means you do tan inverse and do 12 over 5 root 12. So you do 12 over 5 root 2 and you get the angle, which would be 73.6 degree. Alright, so now we have got question number 19. It's 3-mark question, and what this says in the question is, prove algebraically that difference between the square of any 2 consecutive odd numbers is always the multiple of 8. So we're going to take the odd number. So I say 2n minus 1 is the first odd number. Because this says that 2 consecutive odd numbers, then maybe I take 2n plus 1 is another odd number. You don't really have to take these odd numbers. Maybe you can take 2n plus 1 and then you take 2n plus 3 as well. So at the moment, I am using the left-hand side. I'm using this to show that the square of any 2 consecutive numbers is always the multiple of 8. So the difference, so we're going to show that the difference between the square of the 2 consecutive numbers. So I'm going to do the difference and with the square of them. So 2n plus 1 whole square minus 2n minus 1 whole square. You open up the brackets by expanding them. So when you open this up, it would be 4n square. So you open up the first bracket. So opening up the first bracket is 2n plus 1 times by 2n plus 1. You multiply them together, 4n square plus 2n plus 2n plus 1. So I multiply the first term with the first term, then the first term with the second term, multiplying the second with the first and with the second with the second. Then we get 4n squared plus 4n plus 1. So we get the first bracket, which is 4n squared plus 4n plus 1. There's a takeaway sign. Now we're going to expand 2n minus 1 times by 2n minus 1. So opening the brackets would give 4n squared, then minus 2n plus 1. That would be 4n squared minus 4n plus 1. So 4n squared minus 4n plus 1 would be the second bracket. You open up both the brackets, 4n squared plus 4n plus 1 minus 4n squared plus 4n minus 1. You simplify them, so 4n squared will go with the 4n squared. then plus 4n and plus 4n makes 8n, and plus 1 minus 1 will go as well. Clearly we can see that 8n is a multiple of 4, so we write down always a multiple. Clearly we can see that 8n is a multiple of 8, and we write it down always a multiple of 8. So here we have got the next question now, and the question is for 4 marks, and let's have a go on this question now. This says that the diagram shows the triangular prism. We can see that on the side is making a triangle shape. The base ABCD of a prism is a square, the base of the prism making a square, and each with a length of like 15 centimeter. Now, what else do we know? That is angle ABE and the angle BCE are right angles. So it's making a right angle at ABE. I'm going to ABE is making a right angle over here. And the other one is CBE. So C, B, and E is also making a right angle triangle. Okay, so they both are making the right angle triangles here. Okay, so now this is that angle EAB is 35, which is given to us, and it's labeled already. M is the point on DA. So M is the point D and A. M is the point where D to M and M to A is 2:3. So maybe I say M is here. This has got 2 parts. This has got 3 parts. I'm going to read again now. D to M, which is from D to M here, it has 2 parts. And then M to A has got the remaining 3 parts, which would be here. Okay. Calculate the size of the angle between EM and the base of the prism. So we're going to see that where EM is, I'm going to draw a line from E to M, which is this. Okay. Now we have got the line from E to M and the base of the prism. So work out the size of the angle. So basically we are finding out this angle here. I'm going to label this angle as X. The first thing we'll try to find out is the length of, now we're going to draw a straight line, and we see that how we'll be able. So I'm going to make another line from M to B. Now because it will making a triangle, so first I'm going to start to find out the length of MB. And once I would know what's the length of MB, then I'm going to find out what's the length of BE is. And then we can find out the angle. So what we are finding out is this MB. So we are finding out the length of this MB, and then we're going to find out the length of BE. After that, we can use the trigonometry to find out the angle X. So finding out the MB first, I'm going to draw the right angle triangle. So this is the right angle triangle. This is M, this is B, and the other we are taking is A. This is making a right angle triangle over here because it's a square-based pyramid. Now, what do we know that? Because from here to here is 3/5 of 15. So we find out what is this length, M to A, and it would be 3/5 of 15. M to A would be 3/5 of 15. Would be 9 centimeters. So this is a 9 centimeter. Then what else do we know is, we know the length from A to B, which is 15 centimeter because it's a square, so that's a 15 centimeter. To find out the length of MB, we use the Pythagoras Theorem. So we do that 9 square plus 15 square. And to find out MB, that would be square root of 9 square plus 15 square. And the length of the MB would be 17.49 centimeter. So we know the length of MB, which is 17.49. We found out this. Now what we have to do, the next thing is, we found out the length of MB, which is this thing. Now we're going to find out the length of EB. Now to find out the length of EB, which is basically this part. We're going to again use a right angle triangle. And what do we see that? Now this time we are taking this, the triangle. And it's making a right angle triangle. So I'm going to write down, this is E, this is B, and this is A. A to B we know is 15 centimeter. This angle is 35 degree. And because we are finding out EB, we're going to write it down this. Now, this is according to the angle. This is the opposite. This is the adjacent. So considering the SOHCAHTOA, so we're going to write it down, the triangle, which is a TOA, TOA. what we are finding out is the opposite. So we're going to write down to find out the opposite, which is EB. We're going to find out tan 35 times by the adjacent, which is 15. You get the length of EB would be 10.5 then. Now we have found out the length of EB as well. I'll be using this color now. So the first thing we found out is the length of MB, and MB was this thing. Then we found out the length of EB. Now what we are finding out is the angle. So I'm going to draw the right angle triangle, the final right angle triangle. So the base is M to B, and M to B we found already, which is 17.5. Then we found out what EB is. E is here, and E to B, the length we got is 10.5. And now we are finding out this angle. So let's say this is X. So to find out this angle, this is now opposite and this is adjacent. Again, we can use the tan triangle. So tan X equals to opposite over adjacent. Divide them together would give you 0.6, and because we are finding out the angle, we do tan inverse of 0.6, and it gives us the angle which is 30.1 degrees. Here we have got the next question, and the next question is actually for 4 marks. With the next question, this says that there are some cubes which are small and some of them are large in a bag. The cubes are red or the cubes are yellow. The ratio of the number to the small cubes to the large. So small to the large is 4:7. This is the first piece of the information. The next is the ratio of the number of the red cubes to the number of the yellow cubes. It is 3:5. This is the next piece of the information. All the small cubes are yellow. Work out the least possible number of the large yellow cubes in the bag. So it's not a simple, straightforward question because we have got like a lot of information given. We have got the information given about the small to the large, and we have got the information given about the colors as well, which is red to the yellow ratio. Okay, now what we're going to do first thing is we're going to find out actually how many are the lowest possible number of the cubes could be. So first of all, 4 plus 7 makes 11, and here 3 plus 5 makes 8. We try to make this 11 and this 8 to the lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple of 11 and 8 is 88. So we try to make both of them as 88. So if I have to make 11 as 88, I multiply by 8, and this I multiply by 11. So I multiply by 8, I'm going to write down here now. So small to large would be now you multiply 8 here and multiply 8 here as well, which is 8 times 4 is 32. And then we're going to do 7 times 8, which would be 56. Now, to the red to the yellow ratio, because we are multiplying by 11, this would be 33 and this would be 55. Now, we're going to go back and read the question again really carefully, so we're not going to miss any piece of the information. This is that all the small cubes are yellow. How many are the yellow cubes? The total yellow cubes is 55. I'm going to write it down here. So total yellow cubes we found is 55. Now, the next piece this says that is yellow cubes, all the small cubes are yellow. So it means that whatever the small cubes are, whatever the number of they all are yellow. So I'm going to write it down now. This is the total yellow cubes, and I can write it down. Small yellow cubes would be 32. We need to find out how many it would be the large yellow cubes. So you do, what we are finding out is the least possible number of the large yellow cubes. So to find out the large yellow cubes, what we're going to do is the total number of the yellow cubes is 55. Then you minus the small yellow cubes from it, which is minus 32. And when we take away them together, which is 5 take away 3 is a 2, 5 take away 2 is a 3. So we get the total number, least possible number of the large yellow cubes in the bag would be 23. Here we say that this is a shape, and the shape is made of, the shape is made of the triangle and the sector of the circle. The radius of this is a 6 centimeter. So this part is a 6 centimeter and this is also a 6 centimeter. Now this says that AD is 14 centimeter. So from A to D, which is this length, is 14 centimeter. Okay, AOD is 140. So AOD is this angle, which is 140 degree. OAD is 24, so this angle is 24 here. We need to find out the perimeter of the shape to three significant figures. So to find out the perimeter of the shape, what we need to find out is this part, how much is this? And then we need to find out how much is this length, where the other one we're going to add is the 14 into it, because perimeter means is the outline of the shape. So first of all, to get the sector, we have to find out how much is this angle. So do 360 minus 140. So when we do 360 minus 140, we'll get 220. So this angle is 220 degree. Now to find out this sector, what we know that is the circumference of a circle is a 2 pi r, but because it's a sector, not the whole thing, so we're going to write down is angle, which is we got is 220 divided by 360 times by 2 pi r, which is 2 times pi times, and the radius is a 6. So when you type the whole thing in the calculator, we get 23.038. So it means that this yellow part from here until here, this is going to be 23.038. Now we need to find out how much is this part, which is C to D. So to find out C to D, we know that the from here to here is 6. So we need to find out the total length. I'm going to consider this triangle now. So this is O, this is A, this is D, and this is 14 centimeter, this is 140 degree, and this is 24. This we know is 6 centimeter. To find out this length, there are two ways of doing it. Either we can use the sine rule or the cosine rule to find it out. So here we are using the cosine rule. So to find out this, you do OD divided by sine 24, and the other one would be 14 divided by sine 140. So to find out OD, it would be 14 divided by sine 140, and then you multiply by sine 24. So you get the length of OD, which would be equal to 8.858. So it's 8.858. And because we know that the length of OD is this whole thing, we know that the part of this is a 6 centimeters. The length of C to D, which is only this part, would be 8.858 minus 6. So that would be, we get the leftover, which is going to be 2.856. So to find out the perimeter of the shape, we do 23.038 plus 2.856 and plus 14 into it. When you add all of them together, the answer to three significant figure would be 39.9. Here we have got the next question, which is question number 23, and it's for 5 marks. So a train traveled along a track in 110 minutes, correct to the nearest 5 minutes. Jake finds out that the track is 270 kilometer long. He assumes that the track has been measured correct to the nearest 10 kilometer. Could the average speed of the train have been greater than 160 kilometer per hour? You must show all your working out. So what we have to do is now, we need to find out that could the average speed be more than 160 or not. First, I'm going to start by writing it down that the time is 110 minutes. Okay, so time is 110 minutes. Because it's correct to the nearest 5 minutes, we do the upper bound and the lower bound fit. So upper bound and the lower bound. Because it's correct to 5 minutes, so the half of 5 is a 2.5. To get the upper bound, we do plus 2.5. And to get the lower bound, we do minus 2.5 into it. So now the upper bound would be 110. Plus 2.5 would be 112.5. So this is the upper bound, which is 112.5. Where the lower bound is doing the takeaway, so which is 110 minus 2.5, and that would be 107.5. Okay, so now another thing we know that is, because we are checking that if it's greater than 160 kilometer per hour, this, the unit of the time is given to us in hours, where the given information is given in terms of the minutes. So we change that into the hours. So changing now minutes into the hours, changing minutes into hours. Okay, so whenever we try to change the minutes into the hour, what we do is we divide by 60 to the minutes then. So when you divide 112 with the 60, you get I'm going to write it down over here, which is going to be 1.875 hours. So that's 1.875 hours. For the other one, we're going to do the same thing, which is divided by 60, and it would give us 1.791666, where 6 is a recurring number. Again, I'm going to write it down. This is the lower bound of the time, and this is the upper bound of the time, which I'm going to circle now. Okay, now because we are finding out the average speed, I'm going to make a triangle of the speed. So average speed is equals to distance over time. So speed equals to the distance over time. So I'm going to use the distance to find out the upper bound and the lower bound as well. Because we know the distance is 270 and it's nearest to the 10th kilometer. So to get the lower bound and to get the upper bound, to get the lower bound we minus 5 from it, to get the upper bound we do plus 5 into it. So doing the minus 5 would be 270, minus 5 would give 265. This is the lower bound, where the upper bound would be adding 5 into it would be 275 would be the upper bound. Now we know that the distance with the lower bound and the time with the upper bound, or we do the other way, that the distance with the upper bound and the time with the lower bound. These are the two possible, and we see that whether it's exceeding 260 or not. So to do for the first one now, distance of the lower bound. So we know that the distance of the lower bound is 265 and the time of the upper bound is 1.875. We divide them together. But to find out the other distance, we do the distance of the upper bound, which is 275, and we divide by the time of the lower bound, which is 1.791666, and because 6 is a recurring number. The first numbers, we get the speed, which is going to be 141.333, where 3 is a recurring number. To sub 275 over 1.79166 in the calculator, you get another speed, which is going to be 153.488, and that's the recurring as well. Remember that both the units would be in miles per hour because we use the hours and the miles for the distance. Okay. Going back to the original question, this is that could the average speed of the train have been greater than 160? You must show the working out. So because we know the values, which is they both are less than 160, so we write down the conclusion saying that no. And because we say that the greatest possible speed is less than 60. So because it's less than 60, so we can't say that it would reach more than 60 then. We have got the next question, and the next question is about this formula. And we know that. Let's have a read to the question, and it's for 3 marks. Okay, let's read the question and see that what the question is asking us. So the petrol consumption of a car in liters per 100 kilometers is given by the formula, and the formula we can read it. Now Nathan's car traveled 140 kilometers, correct to 3 significant figures. So this is the distance. I'm going to write it down. The distance is 140 kilometer. And this is correct to the 3 significant figures. Okay. Now, the car uses 11.8 liters of the petrol and correct to 3 significant figures. Now, I'm going to write it down that the petrol uses would be 11.8 liter, and that's also correct for 3 significant figures. Okay. Now, Nathan says my car used less than 8 liters of petrol for 100 kilometer. So now his claim is if he travels for 100 kilometer, the car uses the petrol, which would be less than 8 liter. And now we see that could Nathan be wrong or not. So what we're going to do is we do the upper bound of both of them. So I'm going to use the formula. So what the formula is, the petrol consumption equals to 100 times by, because we are finding out the upper bound, we use is the number of the liters of petrol used is the upper bound of it. So for the numerator, we are using the upper bound. So I'm going to use the upper bound of number of liters of the petrol used. Okay. Divide by number of the kilometers it traveled. We do the lower bound of number of kilometers it traveled. Okay, remember that because we are finding out the greatest possible value of the petrol consumption, so for that we do the upper bound divide by the lower bound to get the maximum value. So petrol consumption would be 100 times by, now we see that what is the upper bound of the number of the petrol used. So this is what we're having is the petrol used is 11.8. We're going to do the upper bound and the lower bound of it. So lower bound is there, upper bound is there. Because we only use the upper bound, so the focus is to find out what's the upper bound of 11.8. So it would be 11.85 is the upper bound because we are doing three significant figures. Okay, now we're going to check for the distance because we are looking for the distance, the lower bound. So I'm going to do the lower bound and the upper bound here. But because the focus is only to get the lower bound of it, and the lower bound of that would be 147.5 to three significant figures. Okay, I'm going to use the formula here now and to find out whether Nathan's claim is right or wrong. So petrol consumption would be 100 times by the upper bound of the petrol uses would be 11.85. You divide it with the lower bound of the distance traveled, which is 107.5. You type everything in the calculator, it would give 8.03. Clearly, it shows that it is possible that the Nathan car can uses more than 8 liter. So now we have to write down the final line of the conclusion. Could Nathan be wrong? So we say that yes, Nathan could be wrong. Why? Because we know that the answer we are getting at 8.03, which is more than 8 liter. So because his car might have used over 8 liter of petrol. Remember that we have to write down this final line of the conclusion, and this final line of conclusion is for 1 mark. Here we have got the last question, and it's for 3 marks. So what we have to do is, we have got the fractions given. We need to write down these fractions in the simplified form, and the simplified form would be in a single fraction form. So we are having 3 over x plus 1. Then we are having plus 1 over x minus 2 minus 4 over x. Remember that if you have the fractions, the first thing you do to the simplification of the fraction is to make the denominators the same. So the denominators are possible would be x and then x plus 1 and then x minus 2. I've written down all of them together. Now because this denominator, the first fraction has the denominator of x plus 1 already, the remaining are going to multiply with the numerator. So we have the numerator 3 and the remaining we are having is x and x minus 2. So we'll write them with the brackets form. Plus the numerator of the second fraction is a 1 and x minus 2 is already, this denominator is already here. So the remaining 2 would be x times by x plus 1. Looking to the third fraction, minus 4 is the numerator. We have got this x here already. So this x is here and we have got this x already. So the other two that will be multiplying would be x plus 1 and x minus 2. We're going to expand the numerator, simplify it. We're not going to do anything with the denominator. So remember that we never expand the denominator. So now we are having x, x plus 1 and x minus 2 is the denominator. We're going to keep it same. Where expand the numerator would be 3x squared minus 6x. Expanding the second bracket out would be plus x squared plus x. And the third one would be, because there are the two brackets here, we're going to expand them first and then multiply by 4. So expanding them together would be x squared minus 2x plus x minus 2. We do the simplification, so I just continue over here now. So 3x squared, if we do the collecting like terms the same time, so we are having 3x squared and this is plus x squared, which is going to be the 4x squared. And clearly you see that this would be minus 4x squared. So I'm not going to do inside the bracket for now. So I'll just write it down. This would be 4x squared. The other one would be minus 6x, and this is a minus 6x, plus x would be minus 5x, which would be here. To do that, we are having minus 4 outside the bracket. Inside the bracket is x squared minus x and minus 2, and we divide the whole thing by x, x plus 1 and x minus 2. We're going to open up the numerator now and simplify it after. So 4x squared minus 5x minus 4x squared, then plus 4x and then 8. There's a denominator which is x, x plus 1 and x minus 2. You simplify them together. Then minus 5x plus 4x is just minus x. And there's a plus 8 here. The denominator stays the same, which is x, x plus 1 and x minus 2. So here we have got this in the simplified form. We can't do any more simplification of it. So this we have got the fractions written in the simplified form as a single fraction form. Here we have got the next question now. So it's a circle theorem topic, and it says that A, B, C, D are the points on the circumference of a circle. FDE is a tangent to the circle. We know that the relation to the tangent to the radius of the circle is making a 90 degree. So we have got the tangent to the circle. We know that O to D is the radius of the circle, which is making a straight line. So this angle is going to be 90 degree, where the other side would be 90 degree as well. So this angle, the other side would be making 90 degree as well. Now here this says that show that y minus x equals to 90. So we're going to see that what is the first thing we see. So the first thing is DBO is x. So we clearly can see that DB and O is x. If I extend this line and this is there. So because this is the radius and this is the radius, so it means that it's making an isosceles triangle. Using the isosceles triangle, we can write it down that DBO is equals to x. And the reason is base angles of an isosceles triangle are equal. Okay, so from here we know that if this is the x, then this is x as well. So we know that both the angles are x. And if I see that if both of them are the x, so of course the angle making it at 0 would be 90 minus 2x, because we know that the triangle add up to 180. So if I draw this triangle over here, so this is what we are having. We say that the base angles are the same. So this is a x. We said this is x. I'm going to label that. This is a b here. Then this is a d here. And this is a o here. Okay. The angles in a triangle is always add up to 180. So 90 minus 180 minus 2x would be here. So this angle would be 180 minus 2x. Okay. Now this says that show that y minus x is equals to 90. The next thing we're going to do is to find out the angle of BCD. Because we know that this angle is now, we know already, this angle we know is 180 minus 2x. The angle to the center and to the circumference of a circle is a half of each other. So we can easily find out how much is this angle. So we can write it down now. We say that B, C and D is equal to half of 180 minus 2x. So 180 minus 2x using the circle theorem. And the simplification would be 90 minus x here. Now, once we get 90 minus x, we write down the reason for it. And the reason for it would be angle at the center is double the angle at the circumference. All right, okay. Now we know this angle now as well, which is, I'm going to write it down, which is 90 minus x. What we are trying to prove that show that y minus x is equals to 90. So somehow we need to build up the relation we'll be having the x and y's together. So now we see that where the y is on the other side. So this is we are having a y and this is we are having a x. Because it's making a cyclic quadrilateral and we know that the opposite sides of the cyclic quadrilateral is adding up to 180. So I'm going to do that now. 90 minus x plus y equals to 180. And the reason for that is opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add up to 180. Okay, now we're going to simplify this equation to build up what we are trying to prove. So now what do I see that y minus x? So here I'm supposed to have the y to be positive, and where we having, so I'm going to write it down as, I'll take this 90 on the other side, so it would be minus 90 and minus 90. So we'll get minus x plus y equals to 180 minus 90 would be 90. And we can rewrite this in the form of y minus x equals to 90, and this is what we supposed to prove. Here we have got the part B of the same question, and this is that Dylan was asked to give some possible value for x and y. He said y could be 200 and x could be 180 because 200 minus 180 is equals to 90 degree. We need to state that whether Dylan is right, or if you think if he's correct, then why you think he's right. So think about it. We had the equation where we say that y minus, in the previous part we have showed that y minus x is equals to 90, and the values that he thought of this is 200, and then he said that x could be 110, because he thinks that these are the two values and take away them gives 90. So you need to state that whether he is right or not. We say that no, and the main thing about it, no angle can be more than 180, because we know that the angles in a triangle always we add up to 180. So we say that y must be less than 180 because it is an angle in the triangle. So remember that because it's a triangle, so we can't expect to have any angle to be more than 180. So here we have finished the whole paper, and I hope you have found this video really useful while doing your revision of your calculator paper. Good luck for your exam. Thank you very much for watching the video.